In this session, we're going to start off with data frames. We'll try to understand how do we create data frames and then the various operations, what we can perform, right? Okay, in addition to whatever we could do it with your regular, what do you say, your series or NumPy, right? What else can be done, right? So the first thing what we need to do out here is you need to import pandas. Okay, so this is a library which we require it. And yes, since we will not be getting back to NumPy, then okay, there is no need to import NumPy. But in case if you want to import NumPy package also once, well and good, you can always do that. No problems with respect to that. Okay, now the question is how to create a data frame, right? Okay, now data frame can be created in various ways. Okay, either we can read a CSV file and then it will automatically create a data frame from, okay, whenever you read data from a CSV, or okay, if you read it from Excel, that's one way to do it. The other way, if you want to create a data frame, then what you can do it is we can basically create a dictionary. We can create a dictionary first. Okay, you can create a dictionary. Okay, and once you have a dictionary with the key and the values, right, the values can be a list of elements also, okay, corresponding to each data in the each column, right? Then we have something like a data frame, right? Okay, we do have data frame to basically create a data frame object. Fine, like how we had dot series, on the same lines we do have data frame, okay, using which we can create, okay, data frame. But before that, let us try to, okay, create a dictionary with some meaningful data. Now, the data, what we'll try to take it up is we'll just try to take up, okay, are not huge records. We'll try to take up few records. And then, okay, in those few records, what we'll try to do it is like, we'll just try to take up some really meaningful data, not some junk data. Okay. Now, this data basically, what I like to take it up is called as the information about the BRICS nation. When you talk about the BRICS nation, right? So it's a list of growing nations, okay, which were grouped together, which were called as BRICS, wherein B for Brazil, okay, R for Russia, India, China. Okay, initially there were these are the four countries we had it, and then okay, South Africa was added to this, right? So you can just observe in this particular thing. What I'm trying to do out here is I'm basically trying to create a dictionary wherein the first entry will be the name of the country, and okay, after that you have the capital, right, the capitals of all the countries. You can just observe that. Okay, I don't know if you guys know the capitals of each of this. Okay, but when I started looking at the data out here, I was not knowing much about the Brazil and South Africa, because I was thinking that Rio de Janeiro was the capital and then Johannesburg was the capital, right? Okay, then I got to know about this. And then okay, we have the area of the, okay, of the various countries in square, okay, 1,000 kilometers, right? And then the overall population. Yeah, this population is a little bit older. Like for example, if you just see that, okay, India's is like 12.52. It's somewhere around almost a decade back world. Fine. Okay, now this is a okay, dictionary. What we have, we can just see these are the keys what we have, and these are the values. And let me just try to demonstrate this just by printing this particular information. How does it look like, right? And then I'll try to create a data frame. Right, this is how your data is looking like. So you have a country, okay, 5 names, and then capital, and then area, and then population. Now let me just try to create a data frame here. Okay, so we'll just try to create this, and we collect it into an object called as df or df underscore, like how we used to write np underscore, right? For data frame objects, we generally, okay, use df underscore, okay, followed by whatever you want to specify the name, right? So here I'd like to just pass on this information, right? So if you want, I can just write df underscore bricks. Okay, so after I create this, I'd like to print this information. I'd like to print this information here. Now, please do observe that, okay, what you can observe is it is giving us a tabular data here. Okay, see the data, whatever I got with respect to South Africa is Pretoria, right? See, I feel like the capitals will be one, okay, but it will be changed. Like, for example, luckily India never had a change of capital from the time of independence, right? Okay, but many countries have changed the capital. Like before 1911, Kolkata was the capital of India, right? After 1911, okay, New Delhi is the capital. The same way, I think for Pakistan, if I'm not wrong, that there were three capitals, right? There was, if I'm not wrong, Karachi, then Rawalpindi, and then now Islamabad, right? Okay, so the same way, okay, I think South Africa also or Brazil also was there is change, right? Okay, fine. Now I'll be sharing this dictionary because there's a lot of data to be entered. Okay, right, guys. I've shared the data. Okay, now from the data you can just observe that we just created a data frame. Right. Now, after that, what is the next operations, whatever we can do? See, the first thing, whatever you do whenever you have data into a data frame, that is explore the data. Okay, we need to explore and understand the data. When you say explore and understand the data, like, okay, here is a very small data wherein we are able to print the entire data at one shot, okay, and everything is fitting in a very small, okay, screen. But you might have thousands of records. You might have thousands of records. So you might not be able to, okay, look into the entire data in this particular way. So if you want to see only a part of the data, like for example, first few rows, right? If you want to look into the first few rows, so we can just write dot head. Okay, dot head by default prints 5 records, and since we already have 5 records, we can always, okay, see the same results out here. We might not see any difference here, right? But we can also, okay, say that instead of 5 records, how many records you want? Like you want 10 records, you can do it like, okay, I want to just only specify that I would like to have only 2 records, right? This way you can just look into only the part of the database rather than, okay, the entire data. The same way, assume that you want to look at the bottom thing, you want to look at the last few, okay, rows. Then in that particular case, what you can actually do it out here is like we can just use something called as tail, and using tail we can get to know the last few records. And again, okay, if you do not pass any argument, by default it's going to take up the 5. Okay, in case if you pass on the information, it's going to take up, okay, what the last 5 records, right? Since we only have 5 records out here, so we'll just try to say, okay, of 2. Remember, after working with this basic, okay, data set, later on we'll try to, okay, literally take up some large data set and try to work with that. Fine. Okay. Now, okay, so once we saw some of the data out here, now if you just want to know what are the column names, right? Like you can just see its country, capital, area, and population, right? But still, if you just want to know what are the column names, right? What you can do it is we have something called as dot columns, data frame object dot columns. This is an attribute, not a function. You can just see, okay, this will give me all the information about the columns. You can just out here, okay, so country, capital, area, population, right? Same way. Now, if you want two indexes, we can just write dot index. Okay, we can get to know that index is between 0 to 5, right? So this way, this is to get the row index, or you can say row labels, right? Row labels, and this is to get the column labels, right? Now, if you want to know the overall size, right? So, or if you want to know the number of rows, number of columns, then we can always use the shape, which is very similar to whatever we did with the series and okay, numpy. We can just use this, right? We can get to know that what is the shape. You can just see there it is 5 rows and 4 columns, right? Okay. Now, if you want to know what is the type of each of the column, what is the type of the first column, what is the type of second column, third column, fourth column, please do remember here there's a difference with respect to this numpy array, because in numpy array the entire matrix will be of only one type. Everything should be of string type or everything should be of integer type. But here each of this can be of different types. So we can just write dot info. Info is again a method which will give you the information of all the columns. You can just see country. You can just observe there are 5 records. Okay. And the type what you specified is object. So whenever you have a non-numeric value, it says an object. Now capital is again an object. The area is again an object. The area is a float, and population is again a float value. Remember, in case if you had integer values, it will give you int, right? Okay. So this way we got to know, okay, the information about the various columns, the type of the columns, and then we'll also get to know, like for example, here we do have some, okay, like we don't have any missing values. In case if you have some missing values, by looking at this particular information, we can get to know that if there is any missing data, if there is any missing data, we can get to know that, okay, what are the missing data what we have, okay, out, okay, there. And this we will also be looking into, in case if there is missing data, then how do we handle that particular missing data. Fine. Okay. Now the next very important thing is, like, in case if you want to uh, look into the statistical information, right? Okay, if you want to look into the statistical information, okay, the basic statistical information, we have something called as describe. So using the describe, and as I said, like we can look at, okay, yesterday we just looked into it, like describe, it looked into only the columns which has numeric data. Okay, it never looked into non-numeric data. It gave you all the information, what is the count, the mean, median, okay, and then standard deviations, right, and all those minimum, maximum, everything, right? Okay, now again, if you want to say that no, I want to not only include this numeric, I also want to include non-numeric data, then there is a parameter inside the describe. Okay, there's a parameter inside describe, okay, wherein we need to, okay, set a corresponding value to that, so that we can just say that, yeah, I do want to include everything.
मम्मी
Right.
मम्मी डैडी फोन दे
Okay. Right. Okay, fine. Right, guys, now you can just observe here, okay, describe. If you can just look into the second parameter called as include equal to none, right? Now, okay, this parameter through which we can control that, do you want to include only numeric, or you want to include non-numeric also, right? So let us try to look into what are the values what you can specify here. You can just see include all, right? This like for of d types or none, okay, optional, right? So if you just specified include equal to all, then what happens is we will try to get everything. Like I'll just comment this help information. I'll just try to say, but remember, okay, this is a function, right? Include equal to all, right? So when I just mentioned this, what you can see is, you can see the information for not only numeric data, you can also see the information for non-numeric data. But the information what we get for non-numeric data is how many unique elements are there, what is the top element, or you can just say the most, okay, frequently occurring element, and what is the frequency of that. Okay, and since you have multiple elements with the same frequency, you will get only one of that. It can be anything, right? Okay, and the frequency of that is 1. And for numeric data, we have something else, right? Okay, we don't get this unique, top, frequency, and all those information. Clear? Right, guys. So okay, this way we basically learned how do we get the basic information about the overall, okay, data set. Now I want to access individual column. I want to access individual column. If I want to access individual column, how do we do that? Right? Let me just go down here. Next one. Let me just try to print the data here so that the data is again, okay, near to us. Right? Every in between, I'll just keep adding up the data. Okay, right? So if I want to extract an individual column, I think people who know SQL, anybody who has done SQL, guys? Like query language, wherein we write, like for example, if you want to write something very similar to this, we just write select star from, okay, table name, right? We basically write Like assume this is like this. Okay, this is what we mentioned to similar to what we wrote there. But assume you want to select a specific column. We used to specify column name here. Okay, I want to select country from right table name. Now here it is much simpler, right? Okay, I think all those people have done database. I can tell you, okay, here and there it's very similar, guys. Like okay, a lot of operations are quite similar. If you have done database there, okay, uh, right, okay, fine. Now we can always extract individual columns by just using this object. We can use two notations. One, we can use dot operator. We can just specify the name, right? This is one way. You can say is country dot capital, right? Dot area. Okay, you can just mention this, right? Or population. This is one way through which you can do this, but there is another way through which you can do the same thing. The other way through which you can do the same thing is this. You can use a square bracket inside this, within this, okay, single quotes or double quotes, specify the column what you want to get. Like you want to get country, right? So you can just observe, okay, there is no difference between the way you do it in that, okay, dot operator or this one, right? It's exactly the same. Now, can you tell me which one would you prefer? The one in cell number 20 or the one in cell number 22? Okay, right. Now, I'll show you, okay, with a small change out here, okay, right? I think almost everybody except Vasant, I think everybody else is, okay, voting for the one which is a dot operator. Fine, okay, right. But still I can tell you that I'm only getting the answer from only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people, right? There are around 14 people or 13 to 14 people. I'm getting only from 6 people. Okay, right, guys. Now, okay, I can say either this one or that one, but I need to give a reasoning why one is better when compared to the others, right? Okay, and let me tell you that whenever you look into various codes, you will find sometimes you will find, okay, the one which is used in 20, sometimes you'll find some, okay, things which are in, okay, cell number 22, right? Okay, but I'll tell you, okay, one particular case wherein we can just look into that and then try to understand. Assume that coming back to this, okay, I'll just write area in, okay, area, okay, or let's say population in crores. No, it's not in crores, right? In millions, millions, right? Okay, I don't want to write such one, so I'll just write in M, right? Now, please do remember, it's like population in millions. So I'll try to run this up. So you can just see population in M, right? That is what I got it here. Then I can proceed further, right? Head, tail, dot columns, right? Okay, dot index remains the same. Shape remains the same. Dot info, dot describe, everything is same. Include all is fine. Now after that, I would like to, okay, try this out. Population in M, right? I'm just using population in M, which is perfectly valid. I would like to do the same thing out here. How do I say? Can I write like this? Can I write like this? The answer is no. I'll not be able to do this, right? So if you have a space as a part of your column name, then this dot notation will not work. So if you want to write capital, perfect, no problems. But if you want to access a key column name which has a space in that, then okay, this particular one is not suitable. This is not suitable, right? Okay, that's one thing. The next thing is, now whenever you use the dot operator and when you try to write anything, you basically think that's an attribute of the particular class, like data frame class, right? You might not be knowing that it's basically a one of the column names of your data, or it is an attribute. Like for example, we did use like dot shape, dot index, we did use that, right? So those are not the column names, those were the attributes, or you can say data members. Okay, when you try to do that, gives you some information which is present in that. So sometimes you get confused that is it a built-in attribute of this particular data frame class, or is it a column name of the particular data? Okay, for that purpose, I generally prefer this. Remember, I generally prefer this style, okay, df underscore bricks, okay, of square bracket. Okay, I don't prefer the dot operation with the, okay, column name. But yes, sometimes I might use it, but generally, okay, speaking, if you ask me between these two, I prefer this. I prefer this one, guys. Okay, I hope things are clear that why do I prefer this particular method. I hope there's no problem with respect to that. Okay, and now I'll just like see again, when I want to access, I don't want to give uh, this information. I'll just try to quickly go through this, right? Yeah, Murli. Murli, any questions? Murli, any questions? Okay. uh, See, I got a message telling that Murli Krishna raised hand, but okay, if there is any questions, you can just clarify. Right, guys. Okay. Now we did, okay, this basic information, okay, accessing a particular column, right? Okay. Now, can I access individual row? Can I access individual row? Like, okay, I want to access row number 0 and row number 1, row number 2, right? I would like to verify this. Can I do that or not? Right? Let me try this. Can I just use this and then this particular information? Can I use 0 out here? Right? Will it treat this as row or not? So we can just observe, no, it is treating this 0 as a column name, and we don't have a column by that particular name, right? We don't have a column with a particular name because, okay, whenever you want to use access columns, you just write, okay, a square bracket, we just specify the column name. So this cannot be done. This cannot be done. Now, how do I access individual rows? Now here we can just try to write dot loc, right? Dot loc. Okay, yeah. Now generally when you study about, okay, loc, and along with that there's also something called as iloc, right? There's something called as loc, and there's also something called as iloc, right? There is something called as iloc. I'll just try to say the same thing out here. Now, do you see any difference between LOC and iloc here? Do you see any difference between LOC and iloc? Right? So here, in this particular case, I'm not able to see any difference between LOC and iloc. But let me tell you, there is a difference between LOC and iloc, okay, which is not visible in this particular data sets because, okay, your row labels is 0, 1, 2, 3, and position values is also 0, 1, 2, 3. But if your row labels are not 0, 1, 2, 3, assume your row labels are not 0, 1, 2, 3. Your row labels are a little bit different. Like for example, okay, like what you can see out here. Okay, I don't want to have it something like this. Okay, like 0, 1, 2, 3. I would like to, okay, like we just saw this, the index also, we got it like 0 to 5. Now I'd like to set the index, okay, like first let me just try to print this. And I'd like to write dot index equal to, I would like to give a short form for each of these country names, right? So let me just try to say that I do have Brazil, then let us say Russia, then India, then China, then South Africa, right? Now I'm setting an index out here. After setting an index, right, I would like to have a look at the data set now. I'd like to have a data. Okay, look at the data set now. So everything is fine now. Okay, now you can just observe 0, 1, 2, 3 is changed with okay BR, RU, IN, CH. Okay, so whenever you want to give row labels, we can just specify dot index and then we can specify the row labels, right? Okay, now okay, right guys. Now let us try to look back at the LOC and ILOC, right? Now I'll try to use this ILOC first, right? And then I'll try to use 0. I'll get Brazil, right? Everything's fine. Now I'd like to get the same thing here. I'll just use LOC. I'm using LOC. Please do observe this. I'm facing a problem here. Why? ILOC is based on the position, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, but LOC is based on the row labels. LOC is based on the row labels. So the row, we don't have a row label by name 0. So if you want to access this, then I have to write BR, Brazil, right? So now I hope, okay, the difference is clear with respect to how do we access individual rows, okay, and what is the difference between LOC and ILOC. LOC, we have to pass the row label, and ILOC, we pass the position. And in case by default, the index is by default is like numeric value 0 to n, then there is no difference between ILOC and LOC because the row labels and the position they are same, but the row labels are different, then okay, there is a difference between ILOC and LOC, right? Okay, now the next question is, I want to access not only the one row, okay, and one more thing I would like to understand what is the type of the entire df underscore bricks, as well as how to get only area and population. Yeah, I will be doing that. How do we extract specific columns? How do we extract specific rows and all, right? Okay, I would like to show you what is the data type of the entire, okay, uh, data frame. So I'll just try to print this, right? And since I want to print multiple values on the same cell, I'd like to use a print statement here. So you can just see it is basically giving you this information stating that it is a data frame. Now let me try to take up this either the specific column wise or might be specific row wise. I'd like to just use this print of type of, right? I'd like to pass on this information, and please do observe what did we get here. When you extract individual rows, we got something called as series, okay? Or when I try to extract specific print of type of, I want to extract uh, any of the notations. I'll just say country, right? Okay, this is also going to give, one second, dot should be removed. Either this way you do it, or you use dot operator, okay, that way also, or ILOC also, if you want, you can do it, right? I can just use dot capital here, right? uh, because anyhow we are trying to do it, okay, let us try to do it everything out here. Okay, so what you can just observe is when you look at the entire data, then it is okay of type data frame. But whenever you access individual rows, okay, or either using LOC or ILOC, or when you use okay individual columns, then you are getting it as series. We're getting it as okay Pandas series, right? Okay. Now the next question is, I want to extract uh okay, not all the rows, but specific rows, like first two rows or first three rows. Okay, so if you want to do a kind of slicing, then we can again take the help of this LOC and ILOC, right? Either of it. So I'll just say, okay, fine, I'd like to get the first three records. first three records. Can you just observe that I was able to do the slicing here, right? Okay, or you want to specify uh, the LOC, and you want to say that I would like to access till India. Okay, we get this. Or might be you want to do it with the CH China, right? So we can also do the slicing. Okay, yes, we can specify the starting and the ending. Okay, if you use IOLOC, okay, or numeric values, then the end index is not included. Wherein if you use non-numeric thing, the end index is also included. We can skip the starting index, okay, and specify only the end index, or we can specify the starting and the end, or we can just specify the start without specifying the end. All those things can be tried out, right? You can just check out here, like you can just say, okay, I want to check out from India onwards to anything else, like till the end. So this, okay, can be done. Okay, so this is with respect to accessing specific rows, right? This is to access specific rows. Now I want to access, okay, but remember, in all these cases all the columns have been accessed, but I don't want to access all the columns. I want to access only specific columns. If I want to access specific columns, right, then let us say you want to access the entire rows, specify this, stating that you want to specify the entire rows, put a comma operator. Remember, put a comma operator and then specify which column you wanted. You wanted only country, right? Okay, this can be done with the help of dot operator and all, right? But you can also specify, I want to access the country and the population, right? I want to access the country and the population. Okay, right. So you can just observe this. So you can just observe here, even the two columns are not adjacent. The two columns are not adjacent to each other, but still you can just observe. Okay, you can just observe that I'm able to access this. Okay, right. Now, the next thing is, if you want to do a slicing on columns, like you might have a lot of columns, you want to select first few columns, right? Randomly, if you want to do it, yes, you need to specify every column here. Okay, remember, if you want, you can also change the ordering. If you want, you can specify that, yeah, first I want to get the population, then I would like to get the country. Okay, perfectly valid. You can also do that. Okay, that is the full freedom what you have in whichever order you want it. And remember, the same way, if you want, you can also do it for the rows also. Like you don't want to get all the rows, you want to only get, like for example, let's say you want to get only India and China, right? So India and China, so you can just observe, I'm getting the population in the country of only India and China. Okay. Okay, and remember, I don't need to know the ordering in where exactly India is, where exactly China is. But whenever I do slicing, yes, okay, all those specific records will be able to get this. Now, let me just show you this slicing information, right? I'll just try to get all the rows. I'd like to see till area, right? I want to get everything till area. I don't want to get population. I don't want to get population, right? I can do slicing here. Okay, so this way you can access individual rows, individual columns, a group of rows, as well as a group of columns, right? So, okay, fine. Now, if you want to perform some calculations, like, okay, for example, let's say I want to change the area. Okay, let us say this is in miles and you want to convert to kilometers kind of thing. Let us try to, okay, do this kind of calculations, wherein I just try to say that dot area equal to, right? Okay, dot area into 1.6. right? I'm just trying to do this, and then you can just observe that we got this information here. But yes, we are not trying to put it back into the same thing. If you want, you can put it back into the different data frame, preferably. Okay, uh, KMS, right? Okay, now remember, it will only get only one column, not the entire column, right? It only get one column, not the entire column. Or the other thing, what you can do is you can just basically copy this here, and once you copy this, we can just write df okay underscore kms, okay, of area or dot area equal to, we can just write this information, and then we'll try to print in this, right, guys? So you can just observe, okay, but the original data frame is still intact. The original data frame, okay, we have not, okay, modified. So please do observe here. Oh, problem, right? So we have to write dot copy. So how do I change that? Do I need to go back and change it once, right? And then all other things not required. I'll just try to do this. One second, guys. Generally, this is, then I think we have to fall back on the dot copy. Okay, let's fall back on dot copy, guys. Okay, guys. Okay, fine. So okay, because generally, many a times when we try to copy the when we perform some calculation, capture the result in separate, okay, one, right? Okay, I've seen that original data frame never is to modify unless until you play write in place equal to true, right? Okay, but fine. We did face a problem here, and then we can just copy from one data frame to another data frame, and then we can just try to see that we can perform some calculations out here, or might be like you want to say that. The population, okay, since it is of let us say previous year, and then okay, you have the population growth rate of every country, and then you just want to increase the population by the growth rate. By the way, can you guys tell me what is the present population growth rate of India, guys? Population growth rate of India. Okay, I'm not very sure about Brazil, and I think it should be somewhere around one. Okay, Russia, I'm very much sure. I think it's very less, so it should be 0.7. India is 1.1. Okay, yeah, I think what I saw is 1.1. And do you know one thing? Like in every year, there are 1 crore people who die in India, guys. There is 1 crore people who die in India. Meaning, okay, if you look into the data, they basically say that 0.7% of the okay, population dies every year. If you look at 0.7% of 135 crore, it's like 1 crore population dies per year. So you can just imagine, like, if okay, for 1 year, if 1 crore people die, how many people die per day, right? Okay, I feel like it's at least 50,000 people die per year, per day, guys. Okay, and yes, if even after the death, remember the actual growth is like okay, increase in the population, like if 1 crore people are dying, then it's like around 2 crore people are okay, a newborn. So that is where you see that okay, approximate is around 1.1, 1.2. See, if you look at different data, you will get different things, right? Okay, but still India's population is like growing at 1.1. Remember, if you want to have a stable population, it should be okay, zero. If you have zero, it means that your population is not at all growing, right? Okay, now if it is negative, only then the population starts decreasing, right? South Africa should also be somewhere around India, I feel. Okay, so I do have the population growth rate. Then I'd like to just write df underscore bricks dot population equal to, right? So this population into, okay, so I do have 5 entries out here. I'm just trying to add up this, right? Okay, now let us try to print this. Is this increased or not? Was it? Okay, I think there was a mistake in the formula. This one into this one. Okay, right. I think there was a difference in the problem with the okay calculation of the formula, guys. Right. This is the growth plus the existing one. Okay. Yeah, am I correct? 1%. 1% divide by 100 is also required, right? Divide by 100 is also required. Okay. Yes. Right. If I'm not wrong, this is correct. Okay, if I'm not wrong, this is correct, guys. Right? So 1%, so two, okay. So population of 200 was changed to 202, and then somewhere around 143 was not hugely changed because 0.7, okay, right? So you can just observe that I am able to perform. What did I show out here is, I just said that, okay, everything, like if you talk about converting from miles to kilometers, now it's always okay 1.6, or okay, if you to be more precise, we're a little bit okay near about to that, okay, small variations, right? So that is the same value no matter it is done for India or China or okay any other country, right? The area does not increase and decrease until unless okay you capture other country and other country captures yours, right? Which the possibility is very less okay nowadays, right? But if you want to say that okay, I do have different values for each of it, and then I just want to do some kind of calculations, right? Then you can always go ahead and then do the vectorized operation, well and good. Now if you want to add up a new column, remember you want to add up a new column, okay, you can add up a new column, guys. Now if you want to add up a new column, you can basically add up a column by hard coding it, in case if your data is too small. But in a large data set, we generally don't hard code the values. We try to uh, add new column which is a result of some calculations of the existing columns. But here let me just show you how do I add a new column out here. I'd like to just use this, right? I'll just say this is adding columns, right? You can specify the column name, like for example let us say what can we say, I don't know, like okay, because I don't know the financial capital of every country. India's, I know only Mumbai. I don't know about other countries, right? So I cannot okay say what is that. So I would just say some okay some column, right? New column. You have 5 rows. You can add up to 5 values. We can add up like okay some values here, right? And then you can just say okay fine. I would like to print this. Value didn't change for you. Please do observe. Did you write this? Okay, okay, let me just share this information. Right, the names are a little bit large. Okay, right, the names are a little bit larger, guys. That's the only problem out here. Okay, but remember, in any meaningful place, okay, larger names which are okay, descriptive names which will tell the information what it is much better, rather than having like A B C D E. Rather than having the column names as A B C D E, it is better to have meaningful names, right? So you can just see this way we are able to add up, okay, any okay column, we can able to add up any new columns, right? Okay, now you can also remove a column, guys. We can also remove a column, right? Okay, now how do I remove a column? We can just use dot drop, right? New column. I just want to remove this. Okay, right. So you can just observe that I can basically use something called as drop, and using the drop, I'm able to remove a column. But again, I can just observe, okay, by default, okay, drop. Remember, the drop function can be used to drop a row as well as the column. It can be used to drop the row as well as the column, right? If you want to drop the row, then you have to specify the row label. If you want to drop the column, you have to specify the column label. And remember, since I had done small kind of modification wherein, okay, the index whatever is set, after that I've, okay, I went back on and then executed the topmost cells, and okay, because of that the index value whatever I've set, that has been lost. If you want to do with the help of labels, you can always, okay, go back and re-execute this codes once more, right? And let me just try to run this. Yeah, now things are fine. Let me just run everything now. You can just say run all the cells, right? Okay, right, guys. Now, see, please do observe, we do have, okay, this particular data. You want to remove row, you can remove the row. You want to remove column, you can remove the column. I'll just say this is for removing column. Remember, for removing column, you need to specify axis equal to this. Now, assume that for whatever reason, you say that, okay, fine, now I want to remove a particular row. If you want to remove a particular row, right, I'd like to just say dot drop. And what is the row you want to specify? I want to say SA. Okay, so you can just observe that SA is removed. But now my question is it really removed, or is it just giving me back the data without the last row? To understand that, we'll try to, okay, relook into this data here, right? Now what do you observe here is that, oh, your data is not removed, right? So you can just observe when I use dot drop, okay, I just specified the row label and it gave me a data frame without that particular row. You can try out with any particular row also. But later on, if I try to look back at the data, what I see is the data is having all the information. There is nothing removed, right? Remember, this is the default behavior of the data frame, that whenever you try to remove any row or any column, right, it basically does not modify the same data frame. Instead, it returns. If you want, you can collect it back into the okay, different data frame or in the same data frame, right? You, if you want to really do the changes, then what you can do it is, you can, if you want, you can just check out here. I can just write df, okay, I can just do this, or this side I can, Okay, I can even specify the new one. I can also specify the new one. You can just observe that now. Okay, I collected return value of this, which was only giving me 4 rows. Then I can just observe that, okay, there is a change, right? Okay, now I'll also show you one more way through which you can, okay, do the same operation without collecting back the result, right? Now, let me just try to do this. But yes, I don't have South Africa. Okay, I want to remove, let us say, Russia. Now, without collecting back the values, if you want to remove, then we specify in place equal to true, right? Once you specify in place equal to true, you can just observe after that. If you try to look into the same data, do you see this, Russia? No, right? So, okay, this is something. But please do remember, if you go back and try to execute this cell again, you will face an error because Russia is not there. Russia is not there. Okay, so the general practice is we don't try to use much of in place equal to true. Okay, instead we try to capture it into different data, okay, data frames, and then we verify, and then if you want, you can assign it back to the original one, right? So that, okay, we can get to know what will be the result of this operation. We do not, okay, accidentally do a major mistake, right? So for that purpose, what it does is anything which to drop, okay, it will return me a new data frame, guys. Clear? Okay. So we learned, okay. So probably you tried to execute the same cell twice. Like for example, let us say I had already executed this, Russia was out. Now, if I try to run this again, I'm getting this error. I'm getting this error. The same thing as what Ankit is saying. Okay. So do one thing. If you just want to do this, you have to see, you have two cells to be executed. One is this. I think this one, okay, is not required. The top one. Second one, wherein you're converting from a dictionary to this data frame. You need to execute that cell. That's one thing important. And then there is one more where you're using this index, not getting the index, but setting the index. See, the data is small, so even after you execute everything, it should not be a problem. You execute this, your data is back to normal, right? Once the data is back to normal, then you can go ahead and play around once more, right? So because now your data is updated. Okay, so those two things, right? But yeah, it's not really like if you randomly keep executing cells in between, then okay, there won't be any consistency. Okay, either if you want, you can add cells in between or remove cells in, okay, right? But ordering of the cells is very important, so that when you try to execute all the cells in sequence, right, then okay, you should not face any kind of problem. But if you just randomly go and execute some cell in between, right, again you jump somewhere down, it is not a good practice. You'll face a lot of problems, right? Okay. And I think now we are able to understand that, okay, fine, like, okay, here I'm able to execute one step and then decide that what should be the next kind of operation to be performed. And moreover, since they're, okay, loading the library itself takes a decent amount of time, right? Okay, every time I want to run the code, assume that it was in a regular Python file, .py file, or it might be a spider or a Jupyter node, okay, sorry, um, PyCharm or any such thing, right? Okay, so we can just see that how much problem would have faced. Okay, right. Now I think I'm dropping this data. So if you write down this, right? Okay. So till here things are fine, right? Okay. Now how do I add new row? Okay. Now, one second. Right, guys. Now adding up of a new row, we can just write like this. We can just take up this data, place it here. Remember, anything to do with row, we write dot loc. And then if you want to, okay, I think I'll just have a look at the data first before, okay, I can place some information. Okay, Yeah. I don't have a new data out. Okay, like I only have 3 records. If you want, you can just add up this information telling that, okay, I would like to, if you want, you can add up the same old data, right? Wherein you can just write, okay, I would like to write with Russia. Okay, but I don't remember much of the data out there. So I'll just try to write Russia. Then to be very frank, I don't remember, okay, the capitals, right? Moscow, okay, and area. It is too big a country, guys. It's 12 point something, and then population is quite small. I think it was around 12 or something. Okay, not 12, right? 100. Okay, and area wise is too big, guys. Russia is a world's largest country, but remember, okay, one way it is largest, but you can just observe that most of the area is such a way that uh, humans cannot stay at all. It's full of what do you say, ice, right? So you cannot stay at all. So when you cannot stay, right, then there's no point. If you look at India, most of India is like green area, except some portions of Rajasthan, okay, in that side. But otherwise, most of the India section is greenery. Okay, that is the reason why, okay, there is more area where people are living, right? And if you look into even Rajasthan, the area population density in Rajasthan is much lesser when compared to the density in those areas where there are good rivers, like for example Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, right? So the availability of water plays a big role with respect to where the population is. The population is generally more okay, or they settle at the places where there is availability of water. Wherever there is lack of water, you don't see population settling there. Fine. So water is a critical resource, guys, right? Okay, so we learned how do we add an individual row. We learned how do we add a column. Okay, generally the columns will be many a times the calculations of the previous columns, and then do it, right? Rows, yes, rows we can add it up. We can just keep adding up rows. That should not be a problem. But adding up columns is less, especially if you have more number of records, right? Right, guys. Okay, now we can also the same way, if you want, you can even drop that also, right? You can drop the rows as well as you can also drop the columns. Fine. Right. Now, if you just want to do okay, like we also seen how do we do the vectorized operation. We just did one value with every column. That's something what we tried it out. And then we also tried out like if we have, okay, like the new values, whatever you had it is equivalent to the number of rows what we had it. Then that also we did it. Okay. So that is called as broadcasting operation, or we can also say it as vectorized operations. So we tried out that. Now the next thing what we need to try it out is, right, we need to try out uh, how do we filter the data frames. Like I just want to get those countries which are quite large. When I say probably the countries which are greater than in size when compared to India, that can be one thing, or might be greater than, okay, like area specific some values, right? Okay, we can also specify that. Now how do I specify that? It is again very similar to whatever we did it with numpys and, okay, series and all those things. We can just write, okay, of area, right? Like for example area. Okay, so we can just specify. Now we can just write, so this will give me a specific column. And then I just want to say, okay, no, I just want to capture this. Okay, I want to only capture this. Remember, I've removed South Africa here. I've removed South Africa here. Okay, right? And you can just observe here, I did get India as false. Brazil, China, and Russia is true. Okay, right. Now Brazil, okay, China, and Russia is true, guys. Right? Okay. Now, if you want to get only those records which satisfy this particular condition, right? Then what you can do it is, we can just write this. We can just run this. Okay, Right. Okay. So this way we can just observe that we are able to extract, or you can just do a filtering out here, wherein we are only trying to get only those records which satisfy a particular condition. Right. Okay. Right. Now there's a question mark with respect to how do we sort it. Okay. Actually speaking, I've not tried it out. I've not tried it out before. I've not, to be very frank, I've not tried it out. Okay. I'll just try it out and show you. Right. Okay. Now, so we learned how do we do subsetting, right? We can do this with like, let's say one condition out here, or you want to specify multiple conditions. Yes, you can specify multiple conditions also, right? But whenever you want to specify again multiple conditions, again you are not supposed to use a and d and or, instead the okay bitwise and bitwise or, right? So remember, whenever you apply this bitwise and or on a boolean array, we generally call it as logical and logical or, because this is a boolean arrays, right? So I would say in this I want to check out the countries whose area is greater than 5, and the area, okay, the population is greater than 200, right? And the population is greater than 200. When I say greater than 200, remember I get Brazil also, right? Okay, I do get Brazil and okay, China, but I don't get Russia. Remember, you can just observe how small Russia is, like in population wise. It is not even 10% of India's population, guys. It is not even 10% of India's population, right? So we can just say it is around 10 crore. And okay, with that particular population, if you just look into the number of positive cases of COVID, I think Russia is, if I'm not wrong, number 2 now after US. Okay, or it very soon it will be number 2, right? If I'm not okay, so it is growing at a very fast rate, and then I think it is almost on number 2 stage, right? So you can just imagine, guys. Okay, right. So we basically learned how do we apply this, as if you want to apply logical instead of logical and, or you want to okay apply logical or, right? We can specify that. We can specify this. Either the area is greater than 5, or the population is greater than okay 200. In that way you can just see that Moscow area wise it was true, not with respect to population. Okay, then Beijing was true in both, and China was true in only the population. Okay, Brazil was true in both. And if you want, you can also apply the XOR operation in the one of it, not both, only this one or that one, not both, right? Okay, so it is more like a bitwise operations. Okay, but whenever you apply it on Boolean arrays, we can also call it as logical operations. Fine. Okay, so this is something what we learned about how do we do a subsetting out here. Okay, now the next thing what we'll try to do it is we'll just try to say that no, I don't want to uh, write the data okay the way what we wrote it. Assume that you already have a data which is present in Excel sheet, or might be your CSV files. See, whenever you talk about CSV files, remember CSV files are not something okay different. CSV files are a regular file, like a normal plain text files, like in what you write in Notepad. Only thing is, okay, the delimiter is a comma operator. The delimiter is a comma operator. Okay, so CSV basically stands for comma separated values. And remember, CSVs are much more okay efficient to store when compared to Excel. CSV files are much more efficient to store when compared to Excel, right? Okay, now you can create any notepad file, and then you can add up some data. Now what we'll try to do it is we'll just try to okay write a very small data set, right? In a okay what do you say, in a simple notepad. And then once we do that in a simple notepad, what we'll try to do it is we'll try to learn how do we read that particular data. And once we learn how to read a data of the file, whatever we have created, then later on, okay, doing it with any of the downloaded files and everything will be easy, right? So let's try to write a simple notepad file, guys. Is notepad visible for you guys? Is notepad visible? Yeah, fine. Yes, right. Now let me just say that I would like to specify that I do have a roll number, I do have a name, and do have a marks, right? So this can be a simple, meaningful, okay, information out here, and you can just observe that I do have the data separated with the comma operator. Okay, right now, okay, I might end up putting a space here. Remember, we should not actually have a space, and let us see like what happens in case if you have a space out there, right? Okay, now I do say that roll number is 1, then I'll just write Ankit, and then some value out here, roll number 2, Ananya, then I'll just say some value, roll number 3, then I'll say Chetan, right? Roll number 4, I'll just write Banjunath, right? So value 5, okay, and I'll say Vishal and some value, okay, right guys. Please do remember, okay, generally speaking, we're not supposed to give a space out here. In case if we give a space, then okay, what will happen? Okay, be the problem. See, I'm giving a space to one of the places here. You can just observe that for the name I'm giving a spaces. So let me try to save it at some place, right? I just try to okay, I don't know what was there in this marks. I'll just try to store it in out here. It is E drive ML class marks, right? So now I'd like to read this data. With respect to reading the data, we have studied in two different ways. One is using that open first, okay, and then after that read. The other one, what we did is load and load text with NumPy, okay. But here, if you want to read this tabular data, okay, which is present in your, okay, simple, okay, CSV files, right? Okay, one more thing, what is the extension of the data? I don't know, it is dot txt or dot, okay. Remember, the extension is .txt. Generally, the CSV files will have extension .csv, but no problem if it is .txt, as long as the data is separated with the comma operator. As long as the data is separated with the comma operator, it doesn't matter, guys. Right? So let me just try to come down here. I'd like to write pandas dot read underscore CSV, and then it is generally we use raw strings, right? Let me just try to add some cells. E drive, then ML class, then marks.txt. Remember, it is recommended that you basically have the file extension as .csv. So I'll just write this information, right? Then I'd like to have a look at this particular cell, right? Okay. So you can just observe, I did get this information. Now, I'd like to access the roll number column or the marks column. I'd like to access the marks column. Then I'll try to access the name column. So I'll try doing this. I'll just write df underscore marks. Oh, sorry. Yeah, df underscore marks dot marks. Right? Perfect. I'm getting the marks 23, 34, 43. Right? Now I'd like to do the same thing with the name. I'm trying to do the same thing with the name. I'm not getting it. It says attribute error. Okay, I'm getting an attribute error. They're telling that, okay, there is no such attribute or there's no such column called as name. So you might be wondering, like, I can see there is a name here, but why is it not, it's not giving me the data? Or let us say, I just try to write roll number. Roll number is again working perfectly fine. Why is it a problem only with the name section? if you want to know the reason behind the name section, right, which I'll try to keep it here and then comment it, right? Okay, now have a look at dot columns. You will observe that dot columns, if you just observe this, can you just see that there is a space here, right? Yes. Now, if you look at data the way you were looking at this, did you observe that was there a space? Did you observe that there is a space here? No, right? So, okay. So whenever you use dot columns, we will get to know that if there is any uh, spacing between the columns and all those things, right? We will get to know that information, guys. Okay, right. Now, if you want to really do the changes, remove the spacing, then what you can do out here is, say if you want, we can directly write like this, df dot marks of space name. This is one way which you can do it. But I'd say, no, yeah, I think whoever has written the file, he has not followed it, and I don't want to give a space every time. So if you really want to change the index, then what you might need to do it is you need to get this as a list. Then you have to remove any spacing, like you need to use a strip for every element of that, and then set the index back. So we can just, okay, what you can do it is we can just write df underscore marks dot index, right? So this way, okay, whatever I get, sorry, not the index, the columns, right? Okay, so whatever I get this, then you can get this information, right? And then you can just try to print what is this x. So we can just try to use a strip. So I can just write map or apply. You can just try doing that. So I'll just try to write the strip and then this. Then I would like to write. I think I will try to use apply method, but still string dot, okay, str dot strip, right? Okay, let me try to print this for element in, right? I did, remember the spacing is out, so I can just write df underscore marks dot columns equal to y. I hope this should work. And one second. Because if you use an iterable, right, then gone case, like, okay, right. Now I'd like to print this. That's the problem with iterable, guys. Once you iterate, no, second time you cannot iterate the same thing, right? Because it has gone to the null, right? So this way you can, okay, do this, and then you can also, instead of map, right, you can also use the apply. You can also use this apply, right? So if you want, you can just try this out instead of doing this, okay, and this particular cell together. So we can just try this out. So we just get this df underscore marks dot columns, right? And I would like to change this to title case now. Okay, so I'll just try to say this is x dot, ye was uppercase. Was ye uppercase, guys, in apply? Right. Now apply str dot title. Okay. So we are not able to get this. We have to, okay, if it is series, then we could do this. I'll just write pd.series. Right? Okay. So I got this information. Then I would like to write this. Clear, guys? Okay. Because apply was present in series and not in the index object. So I was able to do this. And now we can just see, we can, okay, we have changed this. So we can just play around with it. Right? Okay, so this way we basically learned that in case if there is any spacing, how do we remove the spacing, or in case if you want to change the uppercase to lowercase, and then we like using the apply also, but apply was present in series, not in the index. And then one more thing what we learned out here is whenever you want to give a function name, right? Now see, if there are member functions, if there are global function, you just specify the function name, right? um, if it is a member function, right, then you have to use the class name dot the function name, right? Title or strip is a member function of string class. We always use string object dot. So for that purpose, we have to write str dot title or str dot strip, right? Ankit, is it clear? Ankit, because you specified no, so I right. Okay, fine, guys. So we played around with this. See, these are all informations wherein we basically try to do the kind of cleaning up data. Like, okay, you don't have the data in the format what you wanted. Then, okay, you try to modify the data in such a way that it is being ready so that you can apply queries. Okay, quite easily, right? Okay, right. So this is some information what we learned. Now, assume that, okay, let me just go back to the data there. Let me just go back to the data. Okay, the problem here is if I add up some data, okay, now I'll not, okay, do much of, okay, this will be there. Let's find this will be there. I'll just try to say that there is 6 record and I'll just write Ganesh. And then I would say that Ganesh has not taken up the test, right? Okay, I'm just showing you the data in the, or should I copy paste the data from the notepad to you guys so that you can save it and then you can, right? See, I just added up the last row. Okay, but what I'm trying to do it is I'm just saying that, okay, there is missing information for like meaning Ganesh is not, okay, I'll just try to say that Ganesh is absent. I'm just saying that Ganesh is absent. And for absent, let us say, I'm just using A. That is one of the ways how you represent, right? That's one thing. Now, the other information what we wanted to do out here is, see, I can take it as absent or I can leave it as blank. So I just try to say that, so there is one more person, right? So I'll just try to say, there is Murali. I'm leaving it as blank. And 10, I'm just taking up one more student. And then I'll just say that, okay, fine, that particular student is also, okay, um, not having marks, right? Or let me just say, okay, the name is missing. Then, okay, let us say like something like this. So now, if you, okay, if you're able to see this data, then remember, I'm just going to, okay, share it with you guys, right? The entire data. So what we can observe is, I can observe that there is some missing data out here, wherein Murli's marks is missing and Ganesh marks has been specified as absent. And the name of the last record is missing. How do I deal with such kind of data? So let me just try to, I'll just write in a separate data, okay, data frame out here, pd.read underscore read CSV. And I'll just try to say E drive ML class, then marks.txt, right? And let me try to print this. Okay, so I don't want to do a conversion for this first character and all, but you can just observe wherever there is some missing data, you got something called as nan. That's one thing, right? You got something called as nan, guys. Okay, I hope it is clear. Fine. So you got something called as nan out here. Perfect. Okay. Whereas wherever you had this a, you can just see that it is looking at as a itself. It is looking at as a itself, right? Okay. Now, the next thing what I like to do it is, okay, say I want to have the roll number itself as your row labels. I want to have this row numbers itself as a row label. That's one thing I want to do it. And then, okay, I'll show you how do we handle this missing data. Like if I want to remove this values, or might be if you want to say that, no, wherever there is the absent, that should be treated as a missing data, right, in one particular column. I'll try to, okay, deal with that. So first, let me just say that I don't want to have something like this, like one is roll number wherein we have the 0, 1 and all, and then the other place where we basically have this, okay, that this 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't want this. I want this roll number itself to be a row label. So in that case, what I can do out here is index underscore column. The first column is index column, right? So you can just observe that your roll number became an index column. Row number became an index column, guys, right? Okay. Now, if you want, you can again play around with this. So you can play around with this, right? And then you can just write what is df dot index. You say 0 to 8 with step 1, right? Wherein you just say that, no, I want this particular one. Okay, so you can just observe that I can specify what should be the, like in case if you one of the columns what we already have it, that should be your row labels. We can specify with the okay, parameter called as index and okay, underscore column, right? We can just specify that. We can just specify index underscore column, is the first column should be index column, right? Okay, now we do have the data. Now let us try to go back and try to play around with missing data. Now remember, we do have a missing data in name. We do have a missing data in marks. Okay, for the time being, I'll just assume nan is something a missing data, right? Now, if you want to replace that with something else, yes, you can. Okay, like for example, we can just write df of marks, right, dot fill na. So what do you want to fill na? Let us say you want to fill it at 0, right? So can you just observe the roll number section? The roll number section, can you just observe nan was changed to 0, right? So let me just try to look into this. So is it modifying the, okay, right, the actual database or not? So please do observe the actual database is not modified, right? So if you want to write like this, you can just write like this. And then, right? So it is quite easy. Okay. It is quite easy in case if it is a missing value, but in case if it is EA, then it is a little bit difficult, right? Because we, okay, it is by default, it is not a missing value. Then we have to basically specify that, okay, what exactly is the missing value, right? Okay. Let me give it a try for this. Can we use space as okay delimiters rather than okay? No, we have to just put an empty one. Otherwise, space will be treated as a data. Space will be treated as a data, right? Okay, so I've not tried out, but let me give it a try. Okay, like with respect to this, fill any, but uh, okay, like we need to specify any underscore values. How is any values represented? So we can just no. Okay, but there is, see, while reading itself, if you want to replace this a as na values, then we can specify that. When you want to read, while reading, if you want to say that no, I want to say that the missing values represented with the help of a, I can just write na underscore values. Okay, the missing values is represented with a. But again, there will be a problem here telling that wherever there is a, right, it will be treated as nan. You can just observe this Ganesh is treated as nan out here, right? And then once we have this information, then we can always proceed further and then do these changes, right? This, or let us say you don't want to fill any value with 0. You don't want to fill any value with 0, right? Yeah, there might be cases wherein okay, the person was really absent. That is one case. But there might be a situation wherein we literally don't have, like for example, let us say if you have a country, okay, in the country, okay, if you just say that the area is missing or the population is missing, then I think we don't want to put it as 0 there. Okay, so for that purpose, if you want to say that you want to take up the mean of the values and then you want to put it out there, then you have full freedom to do that. So if I just want to say that no, I want to say that missing value should not be filled with 0, right? And I would like to take up the mean, and then play around with that. So now I'd like to play this df. So please do observe. Okay, so you can just observe. Oh, okay. So the problem what happened is like there was no missing values. Actually, there was no missing values, guys. So okay, that is the reason why there was no changes. So let me just tell you that there is be a missing values. Okay, once you have missing values, then what we will do it is we will not use this particular cell. Instead of this, we'll try to do that. So please do observe. Okay, it took up the average values of all, and then it basically gave me an okay output. Uh, fill any. Okay, I think then I might need to look into your screen, Ankit. So would you like to take over the control and show your screen? Right, Ankit? If you want, I'll make you the host. Right.